Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan. Today, we've got on Michelle Van Beek, the COO of Profit Rocket. And we had a phenomenal conversation today, got into all kinds of things around women in the trades, the amazing not-for-profit foundation that she has started and what the impact that's going to be. Of course, got into all kinds of operational aspects and leadership training strengths that she is phenomenal at. Thad, what was your favorite nugget from this episode?
I'm going to change from what we actually said beforehand because you sparked something for me. And it was really the whole conversation about normalizing having females in the trade and bringing them on board into it. And when we can normalize that conversation and we can be stronger together, now we can move that in a great way. And that was a phenomenal part of the conversation. So thank you for sharing that part, Michelle. But Michelle, what was your favorite part of today's episode?
You're welcome. And my favorite part of today's episode is probably talking about playing chess and not checkers, really learning the key to objectivity and fact, not emotion.
I love that. And with that, and a little spin off of that conversation was around, are you treating the symptom of the problem or are you treating the root cause? And where are you spending your time with that? Also running your meetings. And Michelle gave some phenomenal tips on how to run an empowered meeting and to really make an impact on your team. I love that conversation. And the idea of how are you managing your team? Are you managing everyone the same way to try and be fair? Michelle's got some great tips on that. So make sure you pay attention to the whole episode because she dropped nuggets from the beginning to the end. It was phenomenal, but we definitely want to hear from you. So make sure you drop a comment down below during the episode of what your favorite nugget was and enjoy the show. Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people. Any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk.
Or a whistle wetted.
Cheers, buddy. Good to see you again.
You too.
Always fun to hang out. Have some good conversations.
One day I'll drink again.
One day. Our guest this week, Michelle Van Beek from Profit Rocket. I don't think I've ever had more messages before a show when we put out like the promotion of the show coming in. You know, Michelle's going to be on this week on Monday. I had more messages this week than I've ever had for a show. So a lot of people that are big fans of Michelle and what she's doing and the impact that she's made. In fact, we're bringing on a new client that happens to be coaching with her and
exciting.
Had raving things to say about her. So I am very excited to have her back on once again.
Me as well. I know one of the things that she has on the go is the E3 in the foundation that's going on behind that. Excited to really dive into that and clear the air on some of the misconceptions on what it actually is. So we'll get into that right off the very get-go. But also a couple other things that we chatted about before we got on. It's just gonna be fan-freaking-tastic episode.
Absolutely, always a treat.
And the only time that we're allowed to mention Victor Rancourt's name in today's podcast is because he's a sponsor with Profit Rocket, also Chirp, also On Purpose Media. So in no particular order, Chirp is an ultimate automation toolbox for home service pros. Help you capture more leads, connect faster, and close more deals. They have direct integrations, drop-down menus, right? It's easy to connect your Service Titan, House Call Pro, Jobber, soon to be Sarah. I like their rehash program. Hint, hint, wink, wink, to be able to leverage that to be able to get more calls on the board. Of course, if you use our link right here, chirp.com/HSSR, guess what? You get 25% off your first 3 months. And I think you actually get 25% off the onboarding setup too, but I could be wrong. But anyways, check it out, chirp.com/HSSR.
And of course, we've got Profit Rocket. Callprofitrocket.com is their website. But look, if you want to learn what Victor did to grow his business from 0 to 40 million over the last 4 years, you got to go check out their business blueprint. 200 business owners have already invested into it. And the feedback that I've gotten from our clients that have bought it, from other HVAC owners that I've talked to, other plumbing and electrical owners as well, is it's absolutely phenomenal. It lays out everything that you need in terms of SOPs, call scripts, profit and loss statements, how to run your business, not just grow the top line revenue, the bottom line profits. It's incredibly impactful and well worth the investment. So go check it out at callprofitrocket.com. And of course, the Growth Summit is coming up September 27th to 29th in Austin, Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. So I can't wait to see what this event will be like outside of Nevada and heading down to Austin. I'm jacked for that event.
going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So go check it out. Register at callprofitrocket.com/events. And without further ado,
well, pitter patter, let's get at her.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
God, we got to update those photos.
I know, you're not even gray in those photos. Michelle, welcome to the show. Welcome back.
Hey, thank you so much for having me again. It means a lot to me, you guys. I always have fun hanging out with you.
Absolutely. It's always a treat to have you on the show. And I know last episode you powered through like a trooper because you had filmed all day long and still over-delivered on value, which is one of our core values. So we gratefully appreciated it. And now we get a fully well-rested and ready to deliver, Michelle. So I'm excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was kind of a hot mess last time. I was pretty exhausted.
Yeah.
I saw the clips and I thought, oh my gosh, was I speaking English?
I think you held it together remarkably well. And then after we were done, like all your video crew were like in the background, passed out. I think
They were
like
all
2 minutes after we
sleeping.
started their show. Yeah, and you were rallying through. So, well, let's dive right into it. E3. What's it about? What's the foundation? Do you want anything? Do you want to say anything to clear the air around what you got on the go?
Yeah, of course. So, as you guys know, I'm extremely, extremely passionate about leadership and, supporting and lighting the way for other female leaders in the industry, in the trades in general, and then not even just in leadership, just bringing women into the trades. I think that there's a massive need, and I've always felt this calling, and my passion just never really had a purpose. So one day I woke up and I just said, I need to do more. I want to do more. This industry deserves for me to do more. And since I have the heart and I have the passion, like I really need to create a purpose for it. So I decided I was going to start a women's foundation, this nonprofit, which is E3, which stands for Empower, Equip, Elevate. And our focus is really to bring women into the trades and elevate those who are in the trades. And I know that when I announced that I was starting this foundation, it kind of got some chatter going with people thinking I'm trying to compete with women of HVACR. And, I wanted to address that today because really, I think that there is just such a need. I've been in the trades now for 8 years. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really even invited into any women's groups or anything like that. So I thought, if I'm in this industry and I'm pretty well known and I haven't even personally had an invitation into any of these groups, then clearly we're not hitting everybody. We're not reaching everybody. So there's still a need. There's still a way we can come together and just reach more people and help more women. And, that's our goal. So I've been in contact with some of the people at Women of HVACR, some of the women, and just, working on doing some collaborations because truthfully, this isn't a competition. This is a way that we can just expand and reach more women. Also, my foundation is going to not be just HVAC specific. We're doing, all different aspects of the trade. So HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roofing, so on and so forth, and then really focusing on, like I said, bringing women into the trades, which is where I think that a lot of times we miss the mark. We stomp our feet and say, I want a seat at the table. And I want to be noticed and I want people to pay attention to me, but yet we're not focused on bringing more women to the table to begin with, and helping bring more women into the trades to where that's 100% normalized, so I think bringing some badass women into the trades, giving them all the tools that they need in order to actually get a job, and be ready for that position, and then helping them to get a job, having a job listing board and having great resources, especially, with collaborating with Profit Rocket, because we have a ton of clients and we have a lot of resources for jobs. So really that's a focus. I might've rambled for a while there, but that's the focus and where my passion has been. And I'm really excited to, make an awesome impact in this industry.
Right. And I've long said, numerous times that we're stronger together, right? No matter what industry, no matter what trade, right? HVAC, plumbing, electrical, shit, digital marketing, right? Coaching groups,
Yes.
like coaching businesses rather, you name it. When people can be stronger together, you can have a bigger impact. And when you can have a bigger impact, you can have a greater reach and just do things the right way for it. And I love the part that you guys are now starting to work on some collaboration there too, because at the beginning, it didn't seem like you would get any of that. And again, stronger together, right? And what they do and what you do are, while they're same, there's a lot of differences, as they said in
Yes.
Thailand a lot when I was there, same, but different. One of the things that you had mentioned is, normalize bringing women into the trades. And I think that's a topic that I want to explore a little bit more of. How can we normalize that conversation, that topic, and just make it more acceptable?
Well, I mean, I truly believe that the more opportunities that we create, just for people in the trades, it doesn't have to be female or male, but we bring more women in and give them more opportunities, and it just becomes normal. I think that the industry has evolved a lot, even since the time I've been in it. I remember when I would be at these huge training events and be the only woman, and now it's like it is way more normalized and it is more common, but I still think that there's a massive need. And I think that a lot of times women are afraid to even try to get into the trades because they don't have that support. They don't know that they're going to be able to have, the support and have women lifting them up and helping them, to find a job or to give them the tools that they need. And so I think that that's how we normalize it, by bringing even more so normalize it, I should say, by just bringing more women in and really focus on helping them to have the tools that they need and job placement.
How much of that comes down to the psychology of the leader of the organization?
I believe a lot of it. I
Yeah.
do. And I think that, that's changing a lot. I do see, like I said, the industry is evolving. I do think that psychologically, a lot of people are getting more on board. They're coming to grips with this isn't a challenge. It's not a men versus women, or like I'm less superior because I allowed a woman to run my business. So I think that has really evolved and changed, but I do think that there is room, for growth there. And if we limit ourselves and we just focus on elevating those who are in the trades, I think that handcuffs us. I think we
Right.
have to focus on bringing more women in and supporting them and giving them a safe place that's 100% not politically driven, and then going to these business owners and saying, hey, I have these badass women who want, to make a difference in your business. Like, let's facilitate this.
Right. No, it's interesting because it like the thought popped into my head while you were talking before, like what you focus on expands. And, if you're focused on solely bringing women in, you're going to attract more women.
Yes.
But if you neglect the idea that you have to take ownership as the owner, as the leader, over what that experience is going to be like for them, and make sure that not just you're on board for it and you're looking for it, but the entire team is looking for it and the entire organization is looking for it. One, it helps with recruiting. Two, it's going to help with making the environment more comfortable for someone who
Yes.
might be outnumbered. Right.
Yes.
And, sorry, go ahead.
No, 100%. I agree. Sorry, I think there's a little delay here.
Oh, good. I just remember, and Thad and I talked about this, like walking into the Women in HVACR event and being radically outnumbered, and what that feeling was like. And
Yes.
Very humbling.
yeah, absolutely. Right. And I mean, it wasn't uncomfortable by any stretch, but you still recognize it. Right. And to then flip it around into a situation where maybe it would be uncomfortable for someone else. Right. And for someone walking into an HVACA business or a plumbing business and having it be predominantly men, what that experience could be like for them, and understanding that, maybe we needed to do some work there.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And then I also think that there's some room for improvement about the way that a lot of women look at women's groups.
Yeah.
That's something that we don't really talk about, but one of my board members is Jennifer Badgley with the COO Group, and she's such a rock star, and she stays out of a lot of the women's groups because she doesn't like and I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, but it's the way I feel as well, though. And that's like a lot of the politics associated with it, and the fact that a lot of times we focus on the struggle. Okay, yes, there is a struggle. I've been there, she's been there. A lot of the women, who are successful today in the trades have been there. Yes, we have to recognize that the struggle exists, but we need to really focus on getting to the success.
Right.
So this existed, we are acknowledging it, but let's focus on how we overcome that, how we become very successful in these trades, which you can do, if you're not feeling bad for yourself and struggling, with, or crying about the struggle that you had to overcome. So, at E3, our goal is going to be, yes, we're going to recognize, that there may be some struggles that you have to overcome or that you've had to overcome, but like, how do we help you get from here to here? How do we help you become super successful no matter what you want to be, whether that's a CSR, whether that's a technician, comfort advisor, a leader, whatever that looks like. How do we help you get from point A to point B, and not focus so much on like, the politics of getting there, if that makes sense.
No, it 100% does. And look, the it's just not exclusive to the female groups with the politics. By the way, too, it's just it's everywhere, right?
Yes.
It's just, I think there's an extra uphill battle there for it. But one of the things, and this is Amanda Trillo, actually, I think we have a YouTube short on it, when a couple, like a snippet existing somewhere. But we asked her that, I believe it was actually in Vegas at the Profit Rocket.
That Profit Rocket.
Yeah, it was that Profit Rocket where we asked her about that, and she's like, I just ignore it. She's like, I focus on me. I focus on what I can control. And at the end of the day, I want to be a badass business owner. Well, I'm going to be a badass business owner because I'm going to do me, right? And I'm going to focus on that. And yeah, that becomes a lot more challenging. But this goes for anybody that has those struggles or that's facing something like that. Focus on you. Focus on what you can control. You can't control others, but you can control yourself. And when you do that, now you can remove that. It's not going to be easy too, by the way, when you have all this extra noise coming at you, but when you can really hone into, okay, well, what do you want? Now go after that.
Yes.
That's what matters.
Which is something that we really talked about a lot at our women's event that I, recently threw, which was incredible. And Amanda is just such a rock star. I love her. She's a great friend, and she's such a badass. And I totally agree with her. I'm very like laser focused. Tell me I can't, and I'm going to try harder to make sure I do it. You're not going to convince me that I can't do something, especially not because I'm a female. Like that is just never going to happen. But creating that safe space, and then also another thing that was really important to me was highlighting some of the really incredible women who are not in the spotlight in the trades. Like there are some really badass women who just aren't loud on social media, who don't brag about what they're doing, who, aren't on every single podcast and whatever, that are doing incredible things. I said, I got to pull these women out of the woodwork and like have them speak at these events and like really rally other women because, they deserve to be celebrated. They deserve to be in the spotlight. And like, I want to be the one who helps them come into the spotlight and change the lives of women around them, and Amanda's 100% not excluded from that. She spoke at my last event and she is so awesome. But I love that Amanda and I share very similar ideals about all of this stuff. And what's incredible about Amanda, which was why we named her our first woman of the year, was because Amanda is actually already bringing women in and, putting them through every single position in the company and really training them and then letting them choose which direction they want to go. So it's funny when I came to her and told her that I wanted to start this foundation, she's like, Michelle, that's so crazy. Like all your ideals are exactly what I'm doing. I just started doing in Grasshopper. So really, really cool to be aligned with such a powerhouse like Amanda.
Mm-hmm. And as Dan Antonelli said, she's going to be soon recognized as one of the best operators in the space. It was his words, and she's going to be definitely up there, 1,000%.
Yes.
Just based on what she's building in her business.
100%. She's fabulous. And there are a lot of other really, really awesome women like that I just thought, we got to bring them into the space, more. We got to bring them into the spotlight and have them share their stories. Like Stephanie, I don't know if she's listening, but Stephanie Postales, she told me her story, and I'm just like, it is just incredible. And then I thought, like, I need more. I got to meet more women who are doing incredible things, you know? And so that's something really exciting that we have to look forward to with E3 too, is bringing in some new faces of powerhouses.
Yeah. Well, and what Stephanie and her husband David are doing up there with Anchor in South Carolina?
Awesome.
The South Carolina, North Carolina.
Oh gosh, don't put me on the spot right now. I can't remember.
My
Sorry.
fault. I forgot.
50-50 choice.
Yeah, somewhere over there.
I love your logo. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Your brand is awesome.
Well, and to see what they're doing on social media, it's so funny because it's something that I've been pounding on so many owners to just please record what you're doing. Don't do anything special. You don't have to stand in front of the camera or do what Victor does, right? Where he's recording him talking all the time and coming up with ideas. All they're doing is recording them working, and it's blowing
so cool.
up. And it's absolutely amazing. They're doing incredible things.
Yeah, they're great people for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Thanks, buddy.
According to Google, I'm hoping that's their right website. That's yes, it is. Okay, it is South Carolina. There we go.
All right, I got it right the first time. We're good. Sorry, Stephanie. I saw a quote this morning. I want to go into this because I think it ties in really nicely with this. And I was just watching Instagram Reels. I send them to Thad all the time, all the funny ones. But I got
I haven't opened. I don't think I've opened it in like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, I got a really good one today that was actually serious, and it was talking about how people wish for cake, and instead the universe, God, whatever it is that you believe in, serves you icing, eggs, flour, all the ingredients that you need to make it, and yet people leave the kitchen frustrated because they didn't get what they want. And so many times the opportunity is laying right in front of you, and you even know what to do, but that moment of indecision is preventing a lot of people. And with what you do, Michelle, I'm sure you see it all day long with so many business owners.
Yes.
What is it that you coach people through in terms of how to take action on the knowledge that they already have and possess, whether they're male, female, who gives a shit, being able to move forward and continue to take strides on what it is that they want?
You know what I think that the biggest thing, that's powerful, by the way, but the biggest thing that I think holds people back is the fact that they don't have self-awareness. A lot of times we don't have self-awareness. We don't understand that we are our own hindrance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we convince ourselves of these stories. We tell ourselves the story over and over again, and we believe it's true. And so really just coaching people to, one, have really recognize when they're the problem, recognize when they're the ones limiting themselves and getting in their own ways, and then really refocusing on what it is you actually want and how to achieve it, and understanding what tools it'll take to, breaking down what tools it'll take to actually get there, and realizing you have everything you need. You have all the opportunities, you have all the skill sets. You just have to believe that you can get there. And I think that's the biggest thing. That's why I'm so big on vision boards. Since I started creating them, it's just magically I'm checking things off, left and right, because I realize it's obtainable. It's a psychological, excuse my French, but mind fuck that you do to yourself, and a lot of people just don't have the awareness to realize that they're the problem. They're the ones who have convinced themselves they can't do it.
Correct.
They can't bake that cake.
Well, you can have your cake and eat it too.
Well, that almost goes back to, when you look at leaders in the skills that they possess, it's not IQ, it's EQ, right? Emotional intelligence. And you look at the quadrants of it, and being aware of your own introspective self to say and do the things that you need to do in terms of that. That's where people have been measured. The most successful ones have a high level of EQ. Now, here's the nice part about this is you can learn EQ. Some people naturally have it, right? Females generally have it a little bit more in terms of the empathy and compassion part of things, but you can learn EQ. You can learn how to get better. You can learn those skills. So now you can, when somebody hands you all the ingredients to bake a cake, you can now have the emotional intelligence and the self-awareness to say, I'm going to build my motherfucking cake. And then I'm going to eat it too.
Amen to that.
There you go. Full circle, Evan, just for you.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah. No, that was great. I love that tangent. Thank you. Thanks, buddy. I got
Just
nothing
here to
else to
help.
say on it.
Nailed it. See, I wrote my one thing down on that topic. So, random question. Let's get into that. Perfect. Sounds like a
geez.
perfect time. So, you're familiar with this part of the show. We actually have 4 queued up for you. You get to choose. Oh, by the way, the random question generator brought to you by onpurposemedia.ca, your local HVAC marketing experts. If your marketing sucks, call us. We'll fix it. Onpurposemedia.ca. So we get to choose one of the 4 that are. You actually get to choose 1, 2, 3, or 4. I'll read it out, and away we go. What question do you want?
I will take 3.
3. All right. You know what? I like this question. I like travel. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
Oh gosh, I have a lot on my list, but I would really like to go to the Maldives because it's gorgeous. The thing that's prevented me from going is the like 28 hours of street travel to get there. But that or Bali. I've been wanting to go to Bali. I really love cultures. I love obviously beauty of going to these places, but one thing that just separates, I've been a lot of beautiful places like Fiji, Tahiti, but what separates, out my favorites is just the whole experience, the culture, the way that the kindness that the people show you, and really seeing how they live. Like I don't just like the touristy stuff or what they feed you. I want to go to the village. I want to see like how they actually live and appreciate, everything that we have, and their love for, life, not having all the things that we have. I think that aspect is really incredible. It's humbling and it's also a beautiful experience. And so I love traveling, and I definitely say either Bali or the Maldives.
Maldives are both those are both on our list. We were actually chatting with the Maldives a couple weeks ago, and my wife is like, "How much do you have to make before we can go to the Maldives?" And I was just like, "Wow, let's set a goal number, an income number, and we'll get it set up." And then we started the rabbit hole of looking at flights, and you're right, it's a long hump. Although I think from Los Angeles, you guys have a flight that goes to there, and then you might take a puddle jumper over. But don't quote me on that. So.
Well, that's incredible.
I think, but don't hold me to it because I know there was it was 3 flights for us to get there. When I looked,
Yeah,
at
I was
from
going to say
Calgary, so.
it's pretty extensive when I looked, but it's kind of incredible because I don't think it's actually that expensive while you're there.
Right.
At least not what I expected. I expected it to be like insane, but it wasn't. Fiji is also like my favorite place on earth thus far. So if you ever get the opportunity, I recommend going to Fiji.
Oh, it's on my list. But you mentioned something about the culture thing, and I'd backpacked in 2009 for through Southeast Asia, and I remember in Thailand, I found a Bob Marley bar of all places, and it was
So
like
cool.
I was the only one in there that night, and ended up getting really really high with the locals that were there, and they always say, "Yeah, don't smoke pot in Thailand, you might get arrested." Well, we got high. But he went on this deep tangent about how he wanted everything that we have in North America, right? He wanted the house, he wanted the family, he wanted the corporate lifestyle, the air conditioning, all these things, and he was sleeping on top of a bar in an exposed area. And I'm like, man, you guys live in paradise here. Like it reframes how they look at things. Like people would like what you have, right? They would like to just kick back, relax, and live in a paradise in a beautiful spot, but they're almost scared to do that, right? And it's just
Yes.
it's just a different look when you actually get to go outside of the you mentioned the touristy spots and actually have conversations with locals.
Yes, it's incredible, and Fiji's culture is like second to none. It's just so incredible. They like pull out all the stops for any guest, and I just think it was just such a I say this like it's so cheesy, but it was a magical experience. So Fiji's like top of my list so far. I'm waiting for someone to beat it, someplace to beat it.
Nice. Well, Bali or the Maldives.
Yep.
Yeah.
Both have great scuba diving. So if you're in scuba diving.
Something that I've always harped on with my kids is like your worst day is another child's greatest dream. And like
So
reframing that. Like, yeah,
I'm going to use that. That's fabulous, actually.
I stole it from Tony Robbins. So,
hey, everybody, it's Tony Robbins.
It's not an episode unless Evan mentions Tony Robbins, but you're right. Like, well, you think about that, and you think just like anybody, really, for that matter, not just kids, right? Like your worst day is somebody else's best day.
Yeah.
So true. So true. Very humbling to think of it.
Especially those that are listening to this podcast,
Well, that's in order to be in the 1% of the world in income. Do you know what you have to earn per year?
It's not a high number.
$29,000.
Wow. That's crazy.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's really crazy.
That's just it. And so when you hear people complain about like, oh, the 1% should pay for it. Oh, the wealthy should pay for it. Well, you are the wealthy. Like if you live in North America and you have a house over your head, you're the wealthy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's nuts. I want to divert back into like real actionable things that owners can take advantage of right now, because you have a strong pulse on it. You've been in it. You've run an organization, helped them grow to, it was 9 million a year, I think, right? The organization that you were with before.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they finished out that year, but
somewhere around there, a high number, right? You've been in that. You've helped many business owners now in your role as an operational coach. Coming into summertime, like call volume gets higher. It's very easy to fall into bad habits. What is some of your best advice that you give to owners heading into summer to not only maximize it and get the most out of it, but make sure that they stay true to their SOPs and continue to follow through on all the things that they're doing now to maximize sales?
that's a great question. And honestly, I think it's really, really an important topic going into summer. I think a lot of times we start to pick up when summer, kicks in and we start to like let our hands go off the wheel. We're just like, we have money coming in, we don't have to stress about anything, or so we think. And then a lot of times we just lose out on capturing a lot of opportunity by doing that. Being proactive is so important. Just because you have a full board for a week doesn't mean that you just don't care about the calls that are on the board. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't still be dispatching for profit or still be debriefing after every call or doing call by call management. Like all those things matter, just the same as rehashing matters, and all of the processes that either you've just put into place. I would hope that you've been in grind season and been putting processes into place and preparing for summer. But those processes are still matter during the summer. Don't get blinded by the dollars. A lot of times we have such a high call volume. We have all this money coming in and we just don't care about anything else. It's like, we're doing great. Who cares? We're going to make by default, we're going to make a high net profit over the next 3 months. Does that mean nothing else matters? No, absolutely not. In fact, it should matter more, because this is your time to shine. This is your time to make the most money that you can make. And then especially with the economy that we're dealing with, this is your time to put away as much money as you possibly can. So you should focus on spending. You should focus on job costing. You should be focused on, the financial side of your business. Don't get blinded by the dollars coming in. You have to pay attention to everything else. And then make sure that all of those SOPs and all those processes that, either you've been doing for a long time or that you're just putting into place, you're following them all the way through summer. Like it's not time to lax. And I think that a lot of people just completely, get too lax about everything. They just let go of the will. They're like, we got money, we're good. Like, no, you're not good. And in fact, you're going to have that much more of a whirlwind to have to deal with after summer, because you let basically the company light on fire because there was money in the bank. You can't do that.
Yep. Well, and the missed opportunity that happens
Yes.
throughout summer, right? By not taking your time on a call because you've got 4 more to run today. So you're not going to run through
Or
all
5
the
or 6 or
right. Right.
And letting your people just be careless about all the calls, because again, you're seeing those high revenue dollars coming in and you're just like, okay, well, nothing else matters. Also, like I said, with the board, that's a big mistake. We have the board filled, for 2 weeks. That means we just tell everybody who calls in, we'll put them on emergency list, but we can't get to them for 2 weeks. Like, no. If the call that comes in is way better and there's way more opportunity, why are you running the crappy calls just because your board is full? You shouldn't be. Nothing changes just because the volumes go up and increase. It doesn't mean you change your processes and let things go. You shouldn't.
Never. Never
Yeah,
ever.
so that's a big mistake that people make. We just get so busy. We just think we're too busy to care. We're too busy to hold people accountable, too busy to make, the most proactive and wise decisions in our business. And that's a massive mistake. You're missing out on so much opportunity. You're losing out on so much revenue, and putting so much money away in the bank. And I think that specifically with what's going on in the economy right now, like this is the time where you really have to take it very seriously and, hold and run a really tight ship throughout the summer. Keep your finger on the pulse of the business at all times.
So for the business owners that don't have that strong process in place to be able to prioritize certain calls over others, what questions would you encourage them to get their CSRs to ask over the phone to decipher whether this is a top call that they need to be running today?
Well, first off, I don't think regardless of how busy, it is already or not for you, I don't think it's too late to put a call script and scoring system in place. I think you got to do that immediately if you're not doing it already. Like, of course, your team's not going to be like, yay, I'm so excited to do a call script. But you know what? You shouldn't care. You got to push forward. Get going on that immediately. And then the most simplistic way to do it is based upon call scores. If you're doing an average on every single, you're asking the right questions and you're doing an average score on every single call, then if a call scores a 5 and another one scores a 1, I'm not keeping the 1, I'm bumping it. It's just like running tech turnovers. A lot of times we make the mistake of running marketed leads. We paid for that lead. I want to run that estimate over a TTO. That's a mistake. I know you paid for it, but your likelihood doubles to close it if you're doing the TTO. So you got to run those and bump the marketed leads. I mean, a lot of times people are just price shopping anyway. And if you don't have a good scoring system in place, so you don't actually know how much opportunity is on that estimate, you certainly should be bumping it for the tech turnover. Is that helpful? Hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to efficiency in being able to get to more of the tech turnover calls, is there anything that you coach your clients on in terms of how they're running those to get to as many of them as fast as possible?
Yeah, because that, I'm glad that you brought that up. That is the key to having that 80-90% close rate for tech turnovers or higher,
Yeah.
is making sure that you get out there immediately. And so you really got to have a really awesome dispatcher or someone who's, even if they're doing dispatch and customer service, although I do recommend separating those two, you got to have somebody who's watching the board at all times. And I don't recommend just doing, I was just talking to my client earlier today about this, but I don't recommend automatically just doing selling technicians, just because out of convenience, if it's a turnover, they can just sell their own unit. But I do think that that's an excellent time for you to slowly start testing out people your technicians who have been performing week over week. If they have high sales, they're exceeding their goals, and you're not going to be able to get out till the next day for a turnover, having that conversation before they leave over the phone with them and, giving them permission to bid it isn't necessarily a bad idea. If they do a great job, if they sell it, giving them a few more opportunities, that's a way to really cut down the time. Otherwise, just keeping a pulse on your board and making sure that, if you have tech turnovers coming in, that you're communicating it when you think it's going to turn before it does. So that way they can clear the board or swap calls out if they have to, and just really make sure that they get out there as quickly as possible. And it's as efficient of a transition as possible.
What are your thoughts on a comfort advisor working from the office and doing like Zoom calls or calling in over the phone in terms of being more efficient? Like, I know it's not ideal, but could that be a workaround?
So definitely not ideal, but I'm not opposed to like a call by call manager
Right.
stepping into a role like that. I don't like the idea of having a comfort advisor just sitting there and doing these Zoom calls, but I do think desperate times call for desperate measures. If there's a process that supports, that, because I don't make rash emotional decisions. I don't recommend that you do either. But I do think if you have a process in place to where, the technician, you're not confident in the technician to bid it, your comfort advisors are all pretty booked out with tech turnovers and not even marketed leads, and having, the call by call manager, or even, owner acting as call by call manager, stepping in and doing a Zoom right then and there, even with a technician still there. So they're getting kind of that in-person personal experience, and then doing the Zoom as well. I'm not opposed to that idea. I mean, if you're going to capture more opportunity, if it doesn't work, customers are not receptive to it,
Right.
you got to cut it.
There's what was the name of the guest?
Steve White.
Steve White. They're piloting something like that right now, where the tech is actually there the whole time with the CSR on the Zoom call, and then the tech can also put in the
comfort advisor, not CSR.
Sorry, comfort advisor. Sorry, my bad.
Excuse me.
Yeah, whatever. Sometimes it happens.
Baby brain. You're good.
Yeah, right, baby brain. Anyways, lost my train of thought. But so the comfort advisor is now being able to present the options, but the tech is there. They've already built a rapport, and they say, "Oh, that's actually a really good option. You should probably choose that one," right? And so it kind of works back and forth a little bit, and there obviously has to be some synergies there, because one of the things that, techs are techs for a reason. They don't necessarily like selling, but they could easily give that right advice based off of what they would do, because the rapport is there. And sometimes the homeowners trust the techs more than they do the comfort advisors. So
Yes,
best of both worlds in that way.
Oh no, I totally agree. And I think that it's just so funny. I just had this whole conversation with a client, but just like I was telling my client, I don't like selling technicians a lot of times, because especially not if you're sending them to like marketed leads, because those are different processes. They're completely different processes, different mindsets. You're teaching them to do like polar opposite approaches.
Yep.
So if it's a tech turnover and you have it assisted by like a call by call manager or someone in the office, I think that's a great idea, because then they're still getting that in person. They've built trust and rapport, like you said, with the technician, which I think is really important. And then it doesn't feel like, you're not important enough for us to come out to your home, so we got to do it on Zoom, which is the only thing that I don't like about the concept, I guess.
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like there's pros and cons to it, and there's many different ways. I'm sure there's probably people doing a different blend of what we just discussed in their own office, and they're crushing it and they're having success with it. Right. So it's not being scared to adapt and try something new, as long as it's well thought out and you have the process in place and the steps and the checks behind it.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah. And the reason I brought this up is I had a conversation with a client this morning, and they're up 68% last April, year over year to today. And they're struggling right now to get to every call, especially on the tech turnovers, because they lost 2 comfort advisors. They're trying to find more, and they're struggling. And so the GM is out running calls. Like, well, the GM needs to stay in the office. Like, we need him in the office to run the business and not be out selling, but he is crushing sales because he knows how to do it. Mm-hmm. But the efficiency that's lost by him going out and doing that is definitely a bottleneck on the growth of the business.
Oh, definitely. And I love the fact that they're stepping up to say like, hey, I know that this is important. I got to run these calls, but ultimately putting it in perspective, it is more important for them to be there. And I would say that with anything, like, I'm really big on the evolution of your business. Like, I think we should always be looking for more efficient ways to do things without sacrificing value or quality. And I think that's really important. It's like, just because something works in my market doesn't mean it's going to work in your market, but it works in my market. You know what I mean? So I think that you have to be able to try these things. I think you have to pay attention to your numbers. I always say this, know your numbers. You have to. So that's even just your stats and performance on how processes are working. And if they are working, then continue doing it. But having a pulse on your business is going to ensure that you're not just making these rash, crazy ideas to try to get to everything, and then you're, shooting yourself in the foot, so to speak.
I want to go deeper on that. How do you deploy that level of discernment in decision making to decide whether or not this is an emotional decision or whether there's actual facts to back it up?
Oh, I love that so much. Well, first of all, again, I'm sure I said this last time because I say it like in my sleep, I'm pretty sure, but you have to be playing chess and not checkers. So you have to be looking at everything from a high level at all times. And you have to be able to be very objective about things. So often we get caught in the weeds. We're so, this person said this and this customer's mad and blah, 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 blah. And that's all we can see. We can't see the big picture of things. So if I'm looking at the big picture, I'm paying attention to stats and numbers in my business. I'm taking the objective route and I'm not making emotional decisions. I'm taking a step back and saying, okay, what is really happening here? What's the real root of the problem? Or, what's the real issue that we're actually facing here, and not allowing the emotional side to take over. So I think that that's, there's no simple answer, I guess, to that question, but it's really just being able to like remove yourself from the emotion of any situation, or even of the chaos of summer, and saying, okay, let's look at big picture here. What's actually happening, and how can I improve whatever's going on in my business, instead of being all emotional and making these rash decisions. Another big thing is like involving your leadership team, having those daily huddles. I am so big on daily huddles, and I don't care if you have 20 leaders in your business, you have 2 leaders in your business. Have your key people involved in a meeting every single day, make it 15 minutes or whatever long, go through the stats of every department, talk about inefficiencies, talk about problems, everybody be on the same page. And make sure, that if somebody's being emotional about something, another person's checking them on that. And that's really how you make factual decisions instead of just making emotional rash decisions in your business.
How do you keep those meetings in check? Because I know it's very easy to let that emotional person take over and have it carry on throughout the entire meeting. And now we've just wasted all of our time that we had set aside for the daily huddle. And meanwhile, we still have all these things that we need to go over.
Well, one is having the agenda and setting rules. I learned from Judge Graham that and I followed this to a T, is, having a set of rules. Like, we start at this time every single day. If you're late, you can't be part of the meeting. You can't have your phone. We're talking about facts and not feelings. So, really just like everybody's got to go around the room and they got to, spit out their numbers. And it's like, okay, what are you doing to solve that? All right, we'll follow up tomorrow. Next. You got to have somebody leading the meeting, and they got to just keep everybody on track. It can't be like, oh, I feel like this and I hate this person and blah, 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 blah. Did you hear what so-and-so said? Like, no, nobody gives a shit about that. That's how we cut down the meeting to be short. That's how we keep everybody on the same page. We talk about facts, we problem solve. It's not about feelings. But if you think about that, if you're doing that every single morning, what is going to be the mindset? This isn't about emotions. It's about facts. We're very vision driven. Like, we know exactly what, our intentions are for the day. And then it's kind of like sets the tone to be not emotional or, making decisions by the seat of your pants, because also you got to report it back to your leadership team the next morning. So, you're going to stay way more focused.
Would you recommend having someone that's not the leader running those meetings? And the reason I ask that is because, again, as a leader, it's very important to pay attention to the emotions of the room and to be able to, again, discern who it is that's might be struggling with something that might even be outside of the business. But to have someone who's not running that meeting to sit back, observe, and then be able to pick out that one person and just check in with them and see how they're doing, see what's going on in their life. Do you see that as something that would be important?
I don't think that you have to not be running the meeting in order to, pay attention to that. If you train your mindset as a leader to be objective again, you're going to notice those things. That was really when I started to elevate as a leader, was when I learned how to be so objective and to pay attention to what people to hear what people weren't saying and to see what people weren't showing me. And that's really where everything changed for me. And I think that it didn't matter if I was running a meeting, running a marathon, doing backflips, whatever. I'm going to notice what's going on because I've trained my mind to notice that, and if you do see emotion in a situation, and you, even in the daily huddle, you're telling them next, you can circle back to that. You're saying, we'll talk about that one offline. And then you're having a conversation with them. Why did you get so emotional about this situation? What's going on? Okay, now what's really going on? Because no one's ever it's never face value, So I don't think you have to not run the meeting. I think it's just, you have to pay attention to what people aren't saying to you. And that's an art.
Yep. Yep. And by the way, for everyone else that's watching, that was basically me getting some one-on-one coaching there. That was all for me. You didn't need to pay attention to any of it. So
we can have offline coaching. I'll help you out.
Thank you very much for that. That was great.
No problem. It's honestly, again, it's one of those, like we talked about, the self-awareness. The same goes with leadership. It's having self-awareness, but it's also having this awareness of others around you at all times. And it's really weird because I think about how I used to manage and I was like terrible. I just thought you treated everybody exactly the same. And like, that's fair, right? I had no idea, when I really tapped into being this, what I feel was an incredible leader. It was when I learned how to, have this awareness of what was really going on. And when I stopped taking things at face value and I started like understanding that it was always something bigger, it was always something different than what you thought it was. And then again, that's where I learned to be very objective. And that ultimately helped me with every aspect of the business or any business I work with, because I'm able to see, the bigger picture at all times. So
Right.
that's a skill set you got to strive for.
So like on that topic, because like I've had that self-realization too, and somebody had pointed that out to me as well, that, hey, you know what, you tend to manage how you want to be managed, right? And that's how you extrapolate that out to your team. And the reality is not everybody goes that way. Like I could probably well, Evan's a good point. I was his manager at a previous job and I wanted to manage him how I want to be managed, but that's not how Evan needs to be managed. Right. So when you have those same
100%.
conversations, you need to learn a little bit in the personality. So what did you do to be able to help yourself learn different ways to manage different people?
Trial and error, if I'm being completely honest. I would kind of like try an approach with somebody that I thought would be successful, and I would pay attention to the outcome. And if it wasn't successful, it's like, okay, you got to try something new. And I think to a certain extent, I still do that because, there's so many different personalities and there's everybody has a certain way that they're more receptive to, being led. And you really just have to figure out what that looks like for every person. And a lot of that comes from adjusting during hard conversations, and not being afraid, to admit when you're wrong or to admit when you handled a situation poorly for that person, that specific person, and again, I revert back to self-awareness because I don't feel like you can ever be an incredible leader without having a very, very high level of self-awareness and awareness of those around you as well.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
To bring this around full circle, an interesting thing that was brought to my attention a couple of years ago from a friend of mine, she was putting together a course on how to sell to women. And, when we look at being a comfort advisor, more often than not, you're across the table from two partners, a husband and a wife. And she had done a bunch of research around this and found that when asked the question of, did you feel like the eye contact in the conversation from the salesperson was even and fair, it wasn't until the woman was actually receiving 70% of the eye contact did she feel like it was 50-50.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And
that's really interesting.
It's fascinating, right?
Yes.
And whether you're in sales or whether you're in leadership, it's the same thing. Where are you giving your attention and who is it that really needs it? You can't manage everyone equally because they are different people. And the programming that they've been brought up with is completely different. You need to cater that conversation to each individual person. And when it comes to something as simple as eye contact and who it is that you're paying attention to in your office, it matters.
It does. It really does. And it's really crazy, how different everyone is receptive to, leadership, to criticism, to, even praise. Like you really have to learn your people. You have to care enough, to learn how every one of your people is receptive, and what works best for them and how they want to be led and pay attention. And I think that even if someone's not comfortable with the way that, you're talking to them or the approach that you're taking, and it's not a very receptive way, I think sometimes we convince ourselves it is.
Right.
So I think having, like I said, that awareness and really understanding whether you're hitting a home run or you're, it's foul. I think that is really important to being a really captivating leader.
100%. Well, this has been a captivating conversation.
Mhm.
So thank you so much for that. Have you read the 5 love languages?
Yes.
Okay, great. I figured so with how you were speaking about some of those things, and even what Thad referenced in terms of like managing people the way that you feel like you should be managed. It's exactly what they talk about in that book,
Mhm.
and that most people show love and how it is that they actually want to receive it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all fascinating conversation.
It
And
is. It really is.
Yep.
yeah, we can go real deep with that, I'm sure.
Mhm.
We are coming up to the top of the hour. So Thad, do you have any final questions?
No, I was just going to say, if you do want to get in touch with Michelle, you can do the callprofitrocket.com is the website. They're working on the E3 website, should be up and running soon. So Michelle at callprofitrocket.com is her email address, should you want to reach out and have a question or conversation with her. So
Should we tag Jennifer in this and say get the site up right away?
Yes.
There you go.
Yes,
She's probably
we
watching.
should.
No, I mean, I think we've talked a lot about the things that we wanted to go over, and at least the things that I wanted to go over anyway. So I've got no other final questions other than one.
Michelle, is there anything else you want to say about E3? Because I definitely want to give you the floor for that.
Which I really appreciate. Thank you. I'm just really looking forward to, having so many incredible women join our community and be a part of E3. I really want to change the lives of those around me and really make an impact in this industry. Like I said, I felt so called to do that. And I am so blessed to have people rallying around me to create this foundation and allow me, to impact the lives of those around me. So I am very excited. I hope that you all join E3 and that I see you at our next event, which I will be announcing here soon as the site goes up. So thank you guys for the support, and you guys, thank you very much for having me on again. You guys are such rock stars, and it's so awesome to get to chat with you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. We can't wait to podcast at the next E3 event. And if you have to be a woman to
Yes.
get in, by all means, we can choose to identify as that because it is 2023.
Awesome. I love it. I'll get you guys some sweet wigs.
Wow.
Perfect.
We'll get rid of
There we
those
go.
gray hairs for you.
It's all in the beard though. That's the thing, is like my hair is all good. There's not many gray hairs. It's just my beard is slowly getting more and more gray as I've ran a business and had 2 kids. So
Feel that in my core.
right. So Michelle, before we go, we do have one final question here for you.
Sure.
And that is, what is one question that you wish people would ask you more, but don't?
You know what? I feel like I totally did not do a good job last time at this. I don't even think I had anything. But I wish that people asked me more what I was passionate about. I think that, talking about what you're passionate about, and really, helping people to see your vision, especially with all the cool stuff that I've been doing. I wish people talk to me more about what I'm passionate about instead of just, I'm not supposed to say the name, but instead of just like grouping me in with Victor, just kidding, Vic, if you're listening. It's an inside joke. But I feel like so many people are just like, oh, because Victor's passionate about this, that's automatically like what Michelle's passionate about. And it's like this, duo that I just get like lumped in with all whatever crazy thing Victor's passionate about. So I wish that people asked me that more. I wish I got to talk about, what really drives me and where I'm trying to go.
Love it. So when he's not trying to seek all of the attention from you, and someone is able to step up and ask you, Michelle, what is it that you're actually passionate about?
Well, just like we talked about today, which was such an awesome opportunity to talk about it, but really just, like I said, making an impact. I think that, speaking for those who haven't found their voice, and really bringing people into this foundation and doing something incredible in industry and collaborating with a lot of really badass women. That's just something that I've been passionate about for years. So I am, you know, thankful for this podcast and this opportunity to talk about something that I feel so passionately about.
I love it. Well, he did chime in, so there you go.
I'm laughing at my response. That's all good.
I guess I'm not going to be the one getting sliced and diced today. You guys are
Yeah,
busted.
no, that's on us. We're glad to wear that one for you. So there you go. Michelle, thank you so much. Thank you for bringing the passion today. Thank you for bringing the goods. So much knowledge that you shared today, and very excited to be able to see E3 truly get launched and take off and make a real impact in the industry and bring more incredible women into it. So thank you so much for doing what you do.
Thank you, guys.
100%. And until next time,
cheers.
Cheers. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of the show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.